Blod Jern is the latest full-length album from ILDSKÆR, and this is a Danish atmospheric black metal band, and a strongly melodic and kind of epic feeling one at that. This is their second full-length album, and is once again part of their lyrical themes focus around Danish history, and usually Danish sort of tragic stories of Danish warfare, where the country has been kind of bombarded from all angles by both misunderstandings and coups, to the point where it sort of ends up in sort of its final state. The borders of Denmark are basically outlined by the outcome of the warfare that takes place, the very devastating warfare that takes place on this album and its narrative. So that would be the Dano-Prussian War of 1864. There's a lot more information in the review about why that was an important conflict and how it was won and how it was lost even. And there's more to this record in its sentiment. Otherwise, it's not so much a nationalistic point of view, but more showcasing the tragic history, as well as the story here is representative of a lot of what was going on as the Holy Roman Empire sort of dissolved, and how the 19th century face of Europe emerged at a certain point. So if you have an interest in history, bands like this can be extra interesting, especially if you're a fan of black metal of the nowadays vein. Now, I don't know what bands I would compare them to outright, but we'll cut to a clip here, and it's really not a band that plays well on 15-second clips, but you'll get an idea of the more quiet and merged render of this release. So in terms of critiquing the actual sound design here, they've gone with a more modern atmospheric production, which is both more distant and kind of set in a pool of reverb that allows the two guitar lines to blend together a little bit more seamlessly. It allows for deeper layers of like organs and keyboards and whatnot, while burying the drum render quite a bit. I think the drums have never been the real strength of the performances in ILDSKÆR's releases, and they feel a bit mechanical in their movement. So it makes sense that they're a little bit more buried than the guitars and the vocals and whatnot. So I think that this does well to balance out some of the irks about some of their earlier releases. But it also makes the record feel more distant and hazy and kind of smoked out compared to their previous two. So I enjoyed that. I think that it is kind of what a lot of the better black metal sounds like in this distant atmospheric style these days. And it fits for the style that they put forth, which is very not so much consonant but long form in its melodic stringing. It pushes out endless throngs of melody through these dual guitar performances, and that means that a lot of it feels like it could go on forever. And so they shore it up a little bit by putting a bit of a haze over it and having the vocals direct through these very poetic pieces that are sung and written in Danish. So all of these are thematic, and they're framed by warfare noise that is appropriately of the 19th century, the late 19th century. And I think that might seem a little bit rote at first to hear things like swords clashing and guns firing and cannons going off, but it is what the album is about, and it does stay on scene throughout the full sort of cinematic panning of the full listen. It's a very strong record in that sense, that it gives you a sense of the time and place and feeling of utter devastation across the burning lowlands. So for me, this is the type of atmospheric black metal I most get into because of its outright melodicism that isn't corny or cheesy. So that's a big part of it, but also the extra theme here does a lot to pull me in and get me more interested in actually reading the lyrics and knowing the history of Denmark and whatnot. So I'm not sure what the lasting value of this record is, because I feel like this type of band only gets better with each release, and each one is more profound than the last. So they're sort of on an escalating path in that regard. But otherwise, I really enjoyed this record. It is a high recommendation for me. It is, I think, one of the better black metal records of November so far, and a bit of a surprise here at the beginning of the month. You can go ahead and check it out for yourself now, and go read my review for more details on the history behind the events in this record, and some thoughts on their discography otherwise.